Today we are going to be finding perimeter, circumference, and area of certain polygons, not every single one, and other shapes. So let's first review distance again. We already talked about the formula, so let's just start plugging in. What's going in first? 8 minus 5. That whole thing gets squared plus, good, negative 2 minus 6. That whole thing gets squared. 8 minus 5 is 3, still getting squared. Negative 2 minus 6, negative 8 gets squared. 3 squared, 9, negative 8 squared. Add them together. 73. And I don't believe that's going to simplify. Does anybody disagree? Get it to simplify? I don't think it does. Okay. There we go. Let's get into our formulas. Most of them, I believe you're going to be familiar with anyway, but here they are. So for a square, if we're assuming a side length is being labeled S, does anybody know the quickest, shortest way to write the perimeter? Ataya? Not to the fourth, because then we would be multiplying all the sides. 4S, or S times 4. So when we are finding perimeter, we're adding up all the sides. So S plus S plus S plus S would be 4S, if we combine those like terms. What about the area? S what? I think somebody was whispering. Squared. S squared. Loud and proud. That is correct. Side times side. All right, a rectangle we might even be more familiar with. If we're labeling the length L and the width W, how do we represent the perimeter? Good, 2L plus 2W. When I write my L's, I usually do lowercase cursive L's, just so that they don't look like ones, because to me, sometimes my non-cursive L's would look like ones. And the area would be length times width. Some people call it base times height. I'm probably more of a base times height person, but it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. You multiply the side lengths together. All right, in a triangle, we have side lengths A, B, and C, with the base being labeled B in this case, and the height with an H. Notice that the height makes a right angle with the base. That's an important feature of the height. If we're trying to find the perimeter, this one is the least pretty. What are we going to have to do with all those sides? Add them up. Are we going to add H into that? No, because H is not on the side. So in this diagram, we would just call it A plus B plus C. Not anything fancy or pretty. The area of a triangle, does anybody know it? Close, Ataya? 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 B H. Okay, next up, we've got a circle with radius R. Anybody know the circumference, or capital C? Nope, it doesn't get squared for circumference. 2 pi R. My pi's are not always pretty. That one actually is kind of pretty. All right, 2 pi R for the circumference, and then area is the one where we do pi R squared. Okay, those formulas look very similar, but they are very different. Circumference, for those of us that are unsure, circumference is like the perimeter of a circle. Okay, but there's no like length for us to add up, but the circumference is the outer edge of the circle. Also, down at the bottom, we've got to note that pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, which our diameter is not labeled in this diagram. Does anybody know what diameter is?
Oh, isn't that like across the middle?
It's across the middle, so it goes through the center. Okay, so it would be like if we took the radius times 2. The inbounds of a singles tennis court is shown. Find its perimeter and area. So, first thing I want to talk about is, does it matter that they didn't label any of these lines in the inside? No, we don't even need them there. Okay, so it's a pretty picture that's nice. We don't need all those extra lines. All we really care about are the outside lines. So try to use those formulas. Which formulas are we using? What shape is this? A rectangle. So use your formulas for rectangle, find perimeter and area. Alright, so I rewrote the formulas that we should be using up there for a rectangle. Does it matter a whole lot what I call my length and what I call my width? No, it doesn't really matter. So your length and your width are not really going to matter which is which. So what did we plug in for our L? Okay, sure, works for me. That means our width would have been 27. 2 times 78. Good. 2 times 27. And then we add them. We get 210. My units. Feet. Make sure you're putting units if units are given to you. Questions about perimeter? Let's move on to area. We are just multiplying those two numbers. So we are taking 78 times 27. What do we get? 1,106? Oh, 2,106. That sounds a little more reasonable. All right, and our units would be? Feet squared. Very good. Area units are always squared. Anytime you find area, your units are square. So if you want to make yourself a note of that, you might want to. If you're finding perimeter, your units are never squared. This one kind of refers to the same type of problem as the last one. The width of the inbounds rectangle increases to 36 feet for doubles play. Find the perimeter and area of the rectangle. We could draw ourselves our own little picture for this with an increased width. You could fill the lines in on the inside. So what's my new width going to be? 63 units.
30.
Oh, it increases. Sorry, I thought it said increases by. You're right. Increases to, not increases by. 36 feet. And my length is still what was our length? 78 feet. Okay. Sorry, the difference between the word to and by makes a big deal here. All right, did we find our perimeter and area with our new bounds? We would use the same formulas. Are we still working on it? Okay. All right, what did we get for perimeter this time? You guys are going to have to be a little more loud and proud with me because I'm old and deaf. 228 feet. Do we agree? Okay. And what about area? (2,808 feet squared).
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, do we agree with those numbers? Do we have questions about where they came from? Find the approximate circumference and area of the circle shown. Use 3.14 for pi. All right, so this is obviously a circle. So we've got circumference and area. Circumference is 2 times pi times r. Area is pi times r squared. They are specifically telling us to use 3.14 for pi. If you are more comfortable using the pi button on your calculator, I'm fine with that. Although sometimes that can come out with slight rounding differences, but we'll be a little flexible. So 2 times 3.14 times, what's going in for radius? 8. Okay, what do we get? Caleb, did you get it?
50.24.
Circumference equals 15.24. 50. See, old and deaf. 50.24. My units? Meters. Do we agree? Okay. Next. Area equals 3.14 times 8 squared. Maddie, what'd you get? 200.96.
Yeah.
We agree? And my units would be? Meters squared. Rounding to 2 decimal places to the hundredths is a good standard, unless the directions tell you otherwise. Anything else before we move on?
No.
Warm, fuzzy feelings all around? All right. The base of a triangle is 24 feet. Its area is 216 feet squared. Find the height of the triangle. So now we're working a little bit differently. We were told the area, and we're trying to find some missing information from our triangle. Okay. Our formula for area of a triangle is A equals 1/2 base times height. So let's plug in what we know. Instead of an A, I would write 216 equals 1/2. Instead of a base, I would put 24. I do not know the height. Okay, there are a couple ways you could go about this. What are you wanting to do? Take half of 24 is a great idea because 24 is an even number. Half of 24 is 12. Last thing I have to do. Divide. What do we get for the height?
18.
Good. The height is 18. My units should be feet. Are they squared? No, because it is not area. 5. Good. So 5 boxes. JK has a length of 5. The other two are a little bit trickier. But what formula do we know that could help us with that? We've used it a couple times already today. No. This is not a right triangle. Pythagorean theorem does not apply. Well, I mean, I guess you kind of could if you made right triangles. But that's not the way we've talked about doing it most frequently. The formula I'm talking about came from the Pythagorean theorem. Which one? I feel like some people are whispering it. Kara?
Sadistic?
Distance. We need to know the length. That means the distance between those points. So we need to use the distance formula how many times? Twice. Because we need two different distances. Okay, so which one do you want to do first? JL or LK? JL. Okay. I would label it as you're doing it so you know which points you're using. You're using points J and L. If you even want to like circle them lightly so that you're focusing on the right points, you could do that. So to find JL, I need my x's. First one, 1 minus 3 squared plus my y's, 6 minus 2 squared. 1 minus 3, negative 2 gets squared. 6 minus 2, 4 gets squared. Don't forget the plus sign in between them. I don't think that was a common issue, but I did see it a couple times. Negative 2 squared, 4 squared, 16. Add them together. We get 20. Let's go ahead and just get a decimal approximation for this one since we are doing perimeter, meaning we're going to have to add to it. What do we get? 4.7?
4.47.
4.47. Okay. So approximately 4.47 for JL. Okay, do we need JL up there, or can I take it away to do our other segment, LK? Okay. So now we are going to focus on LK. Still using L, also going to use K. My X's. 6 minus 3 squared plus my y's. 6 minus 2 squared. 6 minus 3. Go ahead and square it. Plus 6 minus 2. Go ahead and square it. Add them. Square root it. Beautiful. Questions, concerns? But now what do we need to do? Add what? Add all the sides. To find the perimeter of a triangle, we just add all the sides together. So 5 plus 4.7 gives us 14.47. No units this time. That's fine. On example 6, that we have a square. So I'll roughly make us a square here. You don't have to have a diagram, but sometimes they're useful. And what do we know about our square? Yes, our area is 196 feet squared. So our area formula is what? S squared. So we plug in the 196 for the A. How do we get S alone? Square root it. If we square root 196, we get 14. So are we done? No, what did they ask us for? Perimeter. So what are we doing to that 14? Times 4. 14 times 4 is 56 feet. So that was a two-part question. Make sure you don't just stop after you've solved for S. Go all the way through to answer what they asked for.